Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's a pleasure to be here live and direct once again with you for another weekly episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. It is about 7:31, Wednesday, November 13th. I'm sitting at an angle, as you can see, because I have my leg outstretched. Went to the doctor today, the surgeon, for my first post-surgery follow-ups. I'll tell you um, what that was about. And we're also going to talk in this episode about um, our call to action. A lot of the next sequence of episodes are going to be about our current climate, political and otherwise, due to everything that's occurred over the last year and where we are right now. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm gonna try to keep this episode short. Every time I say that, of course, I never accomplish it, but I may accomplish it this time around. Let me adjust my camera a little bit because I'm sitting at an angle. Still recovering the long road of recovery for um, the knee replacement surgery I did. I wish I brought the documents in the studio here with me. I could have held it up for you to see. Um, Maybe next time I'll do that. What they replaced in my knee. Um, Speaking with a surgeon today, and they gave me printout copies of my X-rays from today. Top of the knee, you know, bottom of your leg, top of the knee, and in my case, there was enough extensive damage that they had to replace the inside of the kneecap with plastic as well. Surgeon says I'm doing well. Um, of course, when you first come out of surgery, you don't have any movement. I would say maybe a week, a little over a week after the surgery, I managed to get close to 90 degrees. And 90 degrees, for those of you who can't see, is if you're sitting in a chair and your feet are at a 90-degree angle to your sitting position. Um, the last visit from my in-house physical therapist, and when I say last visit, not only when he was here last time, but they give you 2 weeks worth of in-house PT, but the physical therapist doesn't come every day. So it's basically 5 times about. But now my feet are able to bend back a little bit more, so I'm at 95 degrees. I would bet, I don't think anybody's knee, well, normal people go all the way back, but I will have to get to the point where my heel is touching the back of my thigh. So I'm probably short another, oh no, um, got to be more than 40 degrees or more, right? So um, there's a long way to go to the point where when I'm physical therapy, which I think will be painful physical therapy, and my heel can touch my thigh, we're probably looking anyway from 6 months to a year from now, maybe even longer, depending on how I'm doing. But I would bet that I'll do it sooner because I pushed myself. At one point during the first 2 weeks, I was walking without anything, hopping along, and physical therapist put me on the cane and then pushed me all the way back to the walker, which is the first device you use, because he said I was pushing myself so hard and too hard that I was putting an unusual, unnecessary pressure on the suture, right, on the cut. It's healing well. Everything is healing well. Got a clean bit of health today in terms of my progress, and I'm appreciative to the doctors and all the staff at Oral and Cohen in New York, my surgeon, Dr. Munn, um, the initial surgeon that I saw who assisted me and then decided that I had to have uh, surgery is Dr. Milchheim, the staff at LIJ Valley Stream, and everyone else who's been an integral part of Northwell, an integral part of my rehabilitation. I'm appreciative to you all. So I will keep giving you updates as you go through this journey with me. Um, and hopefully I can give you some really great progress reports. Today was a good day. Some days you feel like a setback, some days you feel like you've made leaps and bounds. I told the surgeon today that I went into my workshop, my garage, I looked at it, and I came out and I was kind of saying, oh, my workshop. I went in there because I didn't want my workshop to forget what my face looked like. And he laughed and he said, then you need to be in your workshop. He says, listen to your body. When you get to a pain point where it tells you need to stop, stop. But don't quit what you're doing. Go back to slowly but surely doing what you were doing, because even though you don't have this kind of mobility, all of that is part of rehab and teaching your leg to get back to its normal activity. So I'm going to give it a shot because I'm eager to get back there. I'm going to try really, really hard not to push myself above and beyond, but hey, nevertheless, so what we're going to talk a little bit tonight, and it's going to be a little bit, like I said, it's going to take a while before I can really sit back here in comfort. And if you hear any noises in the background, my son's on Fortnite, and no matter how much I tell him to not scream so loud, he and his friends are playing online, and their volume gets really high that it comes through my walls, even though I'm in another part of the house, my studio, and somewhat isolated. Um, so I wanted to call this episode a call to action. Here's why. We had an election. We had a controversial last year or two. We had an election. And I'm going to say we had a surprising outcome. And when I say surprising, it's not just what you think. President Trump got not only an overwhelming victory in terms of the Electoral College, he won all 7 swing states, and he won the popular vote. So there's no one that could come out here and say, hey, anything about it, right? Before I move on, I do like the irony that now he has won by what one would have to say is a landslide to a certain extent. There's no one screaming rigged votes. There's no one screaming, anyone stole anything. But when he was on the receiving end of it, it was a rigged vote. To the day he won this time around, he's still saying that the election before was rigged. And the American people this time showed him that whoever wins is whoever they decide. We decide overwhelmingly. I say we because it doesn't matter who you voted for at this point. We are past that stage. We need to get to a we. And here is why. Well, let me say this first. What I'm asking here of getting to a we, I know, is a tall task. There were controversies where families got separated and divided during the period that President Trump was out of office, and many siblings don't speak to each other anymore. Many Sunday dinners, you remember Sunday dinner where everybody got together, have been broken forever. Many lifelong friends have become bitter enemies for life. They've been friends for 50 years, and in the last 2 years, they became enemies and destroyed 50 years of friendship. Many people have been unfollowed on Facebook, and there's some people have gone from liking to hating. It's been an amazing time in our lives, right? Now, why I say amazing is because as I really sit back now the election is over and try to make sure I take everything into perspective, it still comes back to the problem is not President Trump. He is one man. The problem is us, we human beings, we people, we, in this case, citizens of the United States. Let me tell you what's wrong with us right off the bat. We people, and I've said this before, allowed politics, allowed one human being, allowed a political ideology to destroy our humanity. Imagine you not speaking to your sibling, not because they killed someone in your family, not because they stole from you, not because they lied on you and you went to jail, not because they cost you your job, not because they made you sick, not because they cheated with your spouse. No, you're not speaking to your sibling because they decided to side with one human being, either Harris or Trump, or prior to Biden or Trump, two people that most of us will never meet in person, or if we do meet them at a rally or in public and you get to shake their hand and say hello, that's as far as you get. We have forsaken blood. We have forsaken people who we grew up with. We have forsaken people who have done more for us in our lives than anyone else in our lifetime. For someone we don't personally know, may never meet, and here's the catcher, does not care who we, you, me, anyone is as an individual. They care about your vote. They care about your ability to make them powerful and rich. But think about what we have done. They have managed, I always talk about the aristocracy of Washington and their ability to use the population of this great nation as puppets. And that's exactly what they have done. They have turned families, they have destroyed families. Again, not over something that tangible that it breaks your heart because it affects you personally in a really personal way. They've managed to destroy families and relationships over an ideology, and it's a piece of an ideology, right? Because none of us, don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whatever you are, none of us agrees if we break it into real, or we list all the important criteria for an ideology. Probably not any of us agree with it 100%. Not even the people who are running for office. I'm pretty sure if we look at Republican ideology as a whole, as it stands today, there are things in the Republican ideology that President Trump or President-elect Donald Trump will disagree with. So what have we allowed them to do? Two human beings have destroyed the tapestry of what was America. When we have a baseball team for our states, our different states, that wins the World Series, that state will usually hold a parade for the players. And millions of people will line up united for baseball players. People who we have watched, baseball players, basketball players, hockey players, sports, whatever. People who have united families because families will sit together around the TV and watch sports and enjoy conversation, enjoy a meal, enjoy laughter. And we will go out in the rain and the sun and the cold to celebrate them. And they have destroyed even that. How many people used to go to basketball games with their brother or sister or sibling or cousin or friends who no longer, something that was a ritual. They picked their team, the Knicks, the Nets, whoever it was. You could tell them in New York. And they will go out to every game, have season tickets, and now they don't speak to each other over someone who will never know your name, never know who you are, couldn't care if you're rich, couldn't care if you're poor. Matter of fact, they care if you're rich if you could impact their wealth. Couldn't care if you're middle class, couldn't care if you're poor, couldn't care if you're alive, couldn't care if you're dead, couldn't care if you're suffering, couldn't care if you lost your job, couldn't care if you ate, couldn't care if you're happy, couldn't care if you're sad. They don't care about who you are as an individual. but the tapestry of the United States of America. That is such a key word in the name of this country that has been destroyed. Because even though President-elect Trump won the popular vote, even though he won the popular vote, how many families were destroyed? How many relationships were destroyed to get to that place? I don't know how many people who were opposite sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican, prior to this have now united. I don't think that has happened. We need to look at ourselves and realize and understand what has happened. What we've allowed someone, some force that should not be a part of our lives to do. We can't get this world to unite behind our Creator. We have tons of people out there spending their days and nights trying to prove that God doesn't exist. That somehow this amazing thing we call human body, our heart that beeps on its own without a battery, our body that heals itself, women that give birth, our brains that think in brilliant ways, that we just magically appeared on this earth from a chemical reaction. Things that happen in life every day that we can't explain. Prayers that are answered, that they want to call coincidence over and over again for millions of years. A book, one book, a Bible, that still exists and is still relevant and followed daily today when no other book in the history of man has been able to do that. No other book has been able to tell a story that has withstood the test of time. All the evidence we choose to ignore because it makes us feel powerless. But yet, we choose to unite and divide behind another human being. None of us, except for those who decide to commit suicide. And that's something I've had enough episodes saying how tragic that is, but I'm using that as an analogy to say none of us has the power to dictate when we will stop breathing other than if we do it purposely. None of us knows how long we will live. There are people, I know of someone right now that I pray for every night. Her father was supposed to have left this earth probably more than a decade ago. Yet every time I talk to her, he's hanging in there. Doctors are giving him 3 months to live probably 10, 12 years ago. None of us can decide how our children are born. None of us can decide who they will be. None of us can decide their personalities. But we want to claim that some chemical reaction and some evolution created who we are today. We fight believing that there's a higher power, even though the evidence is all around it. We choose to ignore that. But we want to stand and fight each other and hurt each other and kill each other over another human being who is just like us and just in the grand universe as powerless as we are. And as I said in the beginning of this episode, we're going to talk a lot about different aspects because there's so much to dissect here over the next few episodes about where we are and where we're going and what has happened. But the call to action I'm talking about in this episode, and I did say I'm going to make it short, and it will be, I'm going to leave it at this. If you can have enough power over your own mind for a moment to put all your differences aside and look at what has happened in its natural form. President-elect Trump won the presidency. He won the popular vote. He won because the majority of voters, doesn't mean the majority of people, but the majority of those who voted united behind one person. The other significance of that we must recognize is our power as people when we unite. Every single episode, I call each and every of you to action. Each and every one of you. I ask you to email me, to reach out to me, to use your brain power, to us join to collectively to brainstorm, to determine how we can impact our lives and how we can force those who were elected by us, President-elect Trump, right, to do what is best for us people, majority of us people, the United States of America. His election and this past election proves the power in people. No matter what a politician says they're gonna do, if enough of us look at our lives and understand the truth of what's going on, if we see the impact, and if we decide that we are gonna do something about it, there is power in numbers. It doesn't even have to be, in a sense, the majority of numbers. It has to be enough numbers to make enough noise to start infiltrating the thoughts of more. It has to be enough of us making enough noise that we start engaging others to join it, because we do what lawyers do every day. For those who don't believe in a righteous cause, we make our case so overwhelmingly that we introduce reasonable doubt into those who do not believe. Because the result of reasonable doubt is one starts to question oneself and one's beliefs. And once you start doing that and the numbers start to increase, even if those numbers might be the minority, once they become significant enough, the majority still has to take note, understanding that if they don't, and this noise gets louder and louder, noise, by noise I mean this call to action, this effort, and the outpouring of whatever you do, whether it's rallies, whether it's TV shows, whether it's podcasts, whether it's social media, but as the noise gets larger and more people join the cause, it will begin to impact the scale, the balance, right? Because those who in the United States, all people that make up this country, whatever the line of division is between one let's say thought process and the other, is that the more people that try to come over to your side, that starts to tip the scales. Even if it doesn't tip it completely in your side, as the closer the scales get to zero, to even, the more those in power notice, because they recognize that if they're not careful, they can start to tip to the other side where they lose popularity. Enough call to action, enough noise, enough standing and saying, no, we will not accept this. Peacefully but powerfully, we will come up with ways. It will impact them enough. Let me leave you one of these thoughts to think before our next episode. There was something years ago when there was segregation called Black Wall Street, and many of you can look it up. But the ideology behind that was black wealth. And I'm using the word black, not people of color, black. Allow me, for those of you who find that a little tough to hear, I'm making a point, so bear with me. The point is that people of color supported people of color. Businesses owned by people of color supported businesses and people of color. What that meant was people of color made sure and put more effort into making that the quality of service and products they produced matched those from whom we were segregated. It also meant that more and more people voted. I'm sorry, my phone rang and distracted me. My father. More and more people supported their own. More people, and what happened was, I'm sorry, the money was then spent within the black community. When you think about segregation, a lot of people want to think that segregation was, was put to bed because people want us to be equal as a race. No. Don't believe that was their one and only goal. The fact is that people of color became so wealthy because the money kept circulating within that community. And no one else could get their hands on it because we were purposely segregated. So when you turn around now and they abolish, they get rid of segregation, people of color started spending their money outside of the minority community or the people of color community. But what I'm trying to get over to you here is that's the power in numbers. That's you standing up and saying, I can make a difference because I can hit you in their pocket where it hurts. Again, I'm so sorry. My father is calling. I'll have to get him. So I'm going to end this episode. Obviously, my father is elderly and he keeps calling, so I have to take that call. But this is a call to all of you to action. Think about what I've said. Let that sink in. Think about during this next week about all we have to do and the fact that we have to get together and we have to have this conversation. And let's continue this. You can email me at podcast@247realtalk.net. Let's talk. Let's get together. Let's make a difference. It's been a pleasure once again to be in your lives, to be in your homes, to be with your families. Do have a great weekend and a great week ahead. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.